Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act here, which has not really been revised or amended in several years. And so I think if you look at Trump's social media executive order that he put forth, that is a primary example of someone saying, wait a second, these platforms are not going to deserve or get blanket immunity if XYZ doesn't change, right? And so I think that is really the answer to your question, which is that technology has not, or the laws have not kept up with technology. Technology has moved so much faster than the laws. And unfortunately, in America, it takes so long to really change some of these core laws. So we have this problem where we have all of these new tools, but we have laws that have not basically kept up in time and in accordance with artificial intelligence, machine learning, these algorithm changes, and social media platforms. So that is really the big disconnect. One other thing that I will say back to the point of the other guests that I think is important to say here is that we can blame as much as we want of this on the algorithms, but at the end of the day, polarization is also partially on you, the user. You control who you surround yourself with. And so from my experience, I like to surround myself with people from both sides of the political spectrum, but I also know people that don't. And so you have a say and a choice in who you choose to connect with and what political beliefs and systems you keep around you at all times. And if you want to try to fight that algorithm, the best thing that you can do as a user is to keep adding people from both sides of the aisle and keep making sure that, you know, you're hearing different perspectives and then make your opinions accordingly to what you think. Advertisers and marketers think that, or believe that they have much more power than they do when it comes to these boycotts. And that's a byproduct of cancel culture in general. So some cancel culture or cancellations are able to take off. But when you're going up against these basically utilities and massive conglomerates like a Facebook, unfortunately, as you said, they're not going to be able to make a big enough dent. And so, you know, I do think, however, that when we talk about Facebook and the political spectrum, most recently they reported that they were able to sign up more than 2.5 million people to register them to vote. So because they are in the public eye right now, so much so that, and they've had so many public relations scandals, they're actually trying to, I think, change that public perception of how the platform is used in this election. As marketers, we have been trying to understand this psychographic profiling of target consumers for decades now. And I think the only thing that has really changed is the sheer volume of data that we have access to, and that basically users are voluntarily opting into this. So as the social dilemma says, if it's free, you're the product. So I think to marketers who watch this film on Netflix, we know this inherently. I think the problem is that consumers are just not aware of how much data they are necessarily giving up to use these different tools. As a result of social media, the tools and access to data that we have enable us to build that profile through retargeting and pixels and everything else online at a much larger scale than ever before, and also to create a much more symbolic and representative profile of that user than we ever had access to before. I think that, again, a lot of the things that were brought up in the social dilemma on Netflix are necessarily that novel of ideas. And I think the most fascinating part of that documentary is the fact that the actual people who work in big tech all said that they limit screen time and social media usage for their children. So I think that is a big takeaway here, that the people that are actually creating these apps and these programs don't want their own kids using them.